All right, welcome once again to our Wednesday chat live here on Zoom and to Facebook. Today I'm streaming to my personal page. So if you are watching this live, please comment here in Facebook. If you are watching this on replay, please hashtag replay so we know that you've watched it. If you've got any comments, you can on Zoom, you can pop your comments in the chat. But it is Wellness Wednesday here with Dr. Oz, myself, Loz, and Chelsea Jean, and we go live every single Wednesday, 11 a.m. for your convenience and education. So today's topic is everything about the myths of food labeling, which I think is extremely interesting. Oz and I were actually discussing a little bit earlier off air about there's a documentary at the moment on Netflix called Poisoned, and they're talking about all of the things in food, which is, I think, super interesting for the average person to realize that not everything is as you think it is. And Chelsea and I were also discussing some of the really interesting nuances of particular types of cereal. So before we start though, if this is the first time you've joined us, warm welcome to you. We do this every single week, and we're doing this to empower you, to help you make better decisions about your own health, so that you feel like you're in control. A lot of the time people do feel like they are drowning in information, and all three of us come from various backgrounds. So I'm a healthy habit coach. My role is to help busy people find simple ways to optimize their eating, their breathing, their sleeping, their movement, and their hydration, so they can get more happiness, health, vitality, even performance, focus, and confidence out of their life. We've also got Dr. Oz and we've got Chelsea Jean, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. I will let Oz go first.
Hi, how are you? Yes, I'm Dr. Oz from BooB Vitality. I'm an integrative and peak performance clinician. I specialize in chronic pain, inflammation, and body contouring.
Hi guys, my name's Chelsea Jean. I am a naturopath, and I've got clinics in Brisbane that we focus on lymphatic health and detoxification. So anything to do with the lymphatic system, whether it's lymphedema, lipedema, cellulite, bloating, headaches, all of the things, we can relate back to lymphatics. So I'd love you to learn more about how rubbing your boobs can help your lymph.
And you'll notice Chelsea's subtle branding in the background with all types of boobs in the background. And Chelsea is a naturopath by trade, actually, guys. So, you know, we've got Oz, who's an integrated clinician. We've got Chelsea, who's a naturopath and lymphatic specialist. So, you know, coming from a slightly different background of knowledge base. And then myself, who's sort of across your physical intervention, so fitness and meditation and breathing and all those awesome things that you can do every day. And so between us, we hope that we are giving you some solid information so you can start to put your health first very easily. But when it comes to food labeling, I think, and we all agree on this, is that you really need to understand what it is that you're reading. And if you trust the marketing and the packaging and the supermarkets and all of the advertising that you see, chances are you are putting your fate in someone else's hands. Would you agree, guys?
Definitely. Red Bull gives you wings, right? Does it say that on the label? Don't see many people with wings.
No, but they are growing other types of things inside their bodies. I'll tell you that. So I've got a couple of myths that I'd like to sort of discuss with you guys and, you know, get your opinion on them. You know, before, Chelsea, we were talking about, you know, well, I call it label padding. Which is where they might put small amounts of something in a food, but use it as a big claim about the food. So something like one of those popular ones is like fortified with vitamins and minerals, which I find extremely concerning for most people because they don't know what it means. And they see that and they go, oh, okay, so that Nutri-Grain that I'm buying for my kids, it's got lots of iron in it. It's full of vitamins. It's full of minerals. It must be good. And it's Iron Man. So, you know, like they're going to be strong like Iron Man. And the reality is that's not really the case, is it? As an example.
No. So yeah, with the iron, the iron that they put in Nutri-Grain is, if you run a metal detector over it, you'll pick up some iron because it's not the iron that is able to be used by your body, but it's got it in it because it says it on the label. It's not healthy. Just like bread, I think, Loz, is also the same. How they collect bread. The farmer goes and collects it all, puts it in a big silo. It absorbs all of the yuckiness from being in those silos. They take out all of the good bits, all of the grains, the whole grains, and then they add coolant to it for it has a longer shelf life, and they bleach it so it's pretty. But then they add, like you said, a handful back of the whole grains, and we think it's healthy, and it gets a longer shelf life, which is great. And McDonald's burger can sit on the shelf for how long before it changes too?
Ridiculous.
So ridiculous. I think people, the take home from this for me is to just use common sense, guys, when it comes to food, and just know that there is a lot of big government money behind the food industry and the marketing that goes with this.
And you've got big food, big pharma, big ag, really. And it's interesting what you're saying about the bread. And, you know, things like cereals where they use the word fortified. So I don't think people realize, but when something's fortified with vitamins and minerals, it essentially means they've had to add them back into the food. So it's been processed so heavily and bleached normally so that it actually removes that natural vitamin and mineral content from the natural structure of the food, and then they put it back in. Just talking on bread, there's actually an additive. It's called L-cysteine, and it is E920. So guys, if you are eating food and you have a look at the ingredients list and you see weird lists of numbers and letters next to each other, that means it's a synthetic ingredient. Now, there are actually apps out there you can get. You normally have to pay for them, which will tell you what those things are. So I used to have a little book about this big. It was called The Chemical Maze. I used to carry it everywhere and look through it. I had a list of all the ingredients that were synthetic, and it would tell you all the good things and bad things. You can now get it as an app off, like, wherever you buy apps. I think it cost me like $12 or $14, but I have it on my phone. So I type in things when I see them. I wonder what that is. And it has like a traffic light system. So it either has a smiley face that's green, or a medium face that's orange, or a sad face, which is red. Sometimes you get double sad faces. That's how bad stuff is. So there's this additive. I've actually got it written here, and it's called L-cysteine, or E920. And it's an amino acid that's used to strengthen the dough and improve shelf life in sort of those bakery products. So you've got bread, biscuits, cakes. Now, it actually is an additive that comes from duck and chicken feathers. It comes from cow horns, pig bristles, and also human hair. And then it's dissolved in acid to isolate the L-cysteine compound. Now, I actually looked this up the other day, and it's pretty nasty stuff. Like, it causes asthma and skin irritations and stuff. And this is just in bakery products. And it's very subtle. So a really important part, I think, that people need to take away from today's conversation is be informed. Always read. If you are buying something in this package that has an ingredients list and a nutritional values table on the back, really important to understand how to read that and understand what that information is giving you. I don't think people realize even that ingredient listings are in the order that the food appears. So, like, whatever ingredient is listed first is the ingredient that is the most prominent in that product. So if it's sugar, if sugar is the #1 ingredient listed on the ingredients list, it means that sugar is the most prominent ingredient in that product.
Yeah, look at something that's OSE, that ends in OSE.
Yes, so yes, and it's interesting about that, because I wanted to bring that up a little bit later about the OSE, the TOSes. Sugar can also be disguised in other ways as well. So, you know, sometimes they get around saying it doesn't have sugar in it, but it might have like fructose, lactose, glucose, dextrose, maltose, high fructose corn syrup, or HFCS they call it. They are all types of sugars, and Oz and I were actually talking about this yesterday, about sugars and people's gut bacteria. But I know, Oz, I mean, you're really into this gut health stuff as part of your peak performance program, and I know, Chelsea, you are as well. Oz, do you want to maybe talk about sugar and its effect people's bodies and its role? I think people don't quite understand how bad sugar can actually be for their gut.
Yeah.
It's not evil, but people don't really know what it is.
Well, we have to distinguish when we talk about sugar, what type of sugar we're talking, because they usually put that carbs, right? And you want carbs in your body, but you want clean carbs. And then another completely different thing is sugar, like not so clean carbs. Going back to the Ironman thing, I haven't seen, from all the athletes that I work with, I haven't seen any Ironman athlete actually eating that type of cereal before competition. So that's the thing, that marketing is really good on that, right?
That's right. That's right.
So surprised about that.
Yeah. So it's like drinking Coke and have this slim body.
Yeah, and Red Bull, Coke and Red Bull, and also Nutri-Grain.
But yes, in terms of sugar, like there are a lot of other mistakes there that, for example, a lot of people go for skim milk or skim products, and skim products have more sugar than like actually what they claim to have. So you have to be careful with that. Products that say 99% fat-free. Again, if they're getting rid of 99% of the fat, they need to put the flavor from somewhere else, and that comes from sugar. So at the end of the day, we're eating a lot of sugar, and sugar is the main reason for us to suffer from inflammation. So it's the number one reason for our body to create inflammation in the body, which is the first step. And that inflammation at some stage is going to affect our bowel, and we're going to get digestive problems. We're going to start, like, obviously, the more sugar we have in the body, the more insulin resistance. Now, to explain a little bit what insulin resistance is we have what is the glycemic index. Glycemic index means that some foods have a lot of sugar, that like bad sugar, that make your glucose levels to go up very quick and then down very quick. And then when those spikes happen, the body needs to we need to produce the hormone of insulin to get that sugar and get it out, like store it on the liver or get it out of the body. But at some stage, the more sugar you are eating, the more sugar you're putting in your body, the more that insulin, your body is not able to produce that insulin anymore. And then it's when you get insulin resistance. The insulin is not enough to remove all that sugar. And then it's when we start getting problems of chronic disease. That's in terms of chronic disease. But if we go back to the bowel, and the problems with the bowel is that most of the bad bacteria that we can have in the bowel eats sugar. They feed themselves from sugar. It's their favorite food. So every time you have something with sugar, anything that is wrong in the bowel, if you suffer from bloating, if you suffer from IBS, if you suffer from SIBO or any other problem that has bacteria associated to the bowel, they're happy for you to get that sugar. And there are a lot of research also showing that cancer cells also feed themselves from sugar. So the more sugar you have in the body, the more of the bad things happen. And by sugar, we mean processed, like we're talking not about carbs. Like we have clean carbs that come from vegetables; those are good carbs. And we have the bad carbs that come from sugar. So when you see the label, see how much sugar they have, because you can be reading on the label that it has just, let's say, 10 grams of carbs. But from those 10 grams of carbs, 9.8 is sugar. Well, that's enough to be not so good. So you have to be, that's the way I think, or at least if I read a label, that's the way I go. Like, not so much counting for my calorie intake and those things. I don't do that. I'm lazy on that way. But I like to know what I'm putting in my body. And also, when you're reading a label, I think before you read a label, you have to establish what you're looking in terms of your diet. If you're looking to lose weight, if you're looking to be healthier, if you're looking to build muscle, whatever you're looking for, whatever is the stage of your health where you are, there is the way that you have to read your label. For example, if I'm about to compete and I need to build muscle, but I look on the label for products that have more protein and less fat, and maybe medium carbs, depending on the training that I have. But if I'm on an anti-inflammatory diet, which is after competition, I need to reduce all the inflammation from the competition, then I make sure that carbs are the lowest, like as low as I can, but it's high in fiber, like the fiber is high. Yeah. So those are the kind of things that you have, and always with some sort of protein. Also, depending the time of the day that you are eating, it's always more convenient to have more carbs in the morning, less protein, and as day goes on, reduce the carbs and increase the protein. The reason why is because at night, protein takes longer to be metabolized. So it takes about 5 to 6 hours to be metabolized, which means that the starvation period for your body is less. as if you have carbs at night, it's more difficult for your body to process those carbs in a good way. But at the end of the day, in 2 hours, those carbs are gone, and the rest of the night, you're on a starvation period, which means you are actually storing fat. So
and this is
that's
sometimes why fasting isn't always the best thing, right? Like when we've talked about this fasting, I would say if it's fast, it doesn't last. But it's true, right? It's fasting doesn't work for everybody, and I think because of what you said about the carbs, the fats, and the proteins, which are macronutrients. People talk about macros, I actually don't know what that means. It's really important to understand the timing of your meals and the structure of your meals, which is actually really basic information that most people don't know about. Do you agree? Like most people don't understand what carbs, fats, and proteins are. People think about carbs just being breads and pastas and all of that, but all types of sugar are carbohydrates. There's just good carbs and not so good carbs, and normally a carb attached to like fiber. So for instance, like you'd be better off eating an orange than drinking orange juice most of the time, because orange juice is literally concentrated sugar water where they've stripped out a lot of the fiber, especially if it's highly processed. There could be 52 oranges worth of sugar. And you are consuming that, and it's so easy to consume. And people think they're doing the right thing. They're getting their vitamin C in because this is what they think. Yet they're actually doing their body potentially more harm than good. You'd be better off eating an orange, having the bulk of the orange and the fiber of the orange, which is going to help your digestive system. Then you've only eaten one orange. You've got your fiber. You've got a portion controlled amount of food going into your body, and it feels okay, right? And I think these are some of the misconceptions people kind of live with, because they hear on one hand that, you've got to do this. On the other hand, they might read something, you've got to do this. And it is really basic stuff. But for some reason, it becomes clouded by all of this consumerism and this marketing and this clever labeling and these I guess, omissions of information. And it's interesting what you were saying, Oz, about insulin resistance, for example. Most people don't understand insulin resistance, or they don't even understand they have an insulin regulation problem until their doctor says, oh, you have diabetes. But there is a whole point that leads up to before then, and you could be moving towards that diabetic stage. In fact, Australia's incidence of diabetes is quite high, type 2 diabetes, which is normally lifestyle and food related, where your body does what Oz said. You just can't produce any insulin anymore because you're continuously spiking blood sugars. And I see these people go on these cycles where I've just been on a bit of a tour with a couple of fellas, and it's just trying to get the energy levels up all day, and it's like Coca-Cola, carbohydrates, boom, slump, boom, slump. And the trouble is that it actually gets you caught in this really weird cyclic dependence on sugar. Whereas if we eat things with lower glycemic index that have more high levels of fiber, and all you got to do is turn the package over and have a look, look at the fiber, that'll help you maintain more even energy through the day. So at 3 o'clock, when you're normally used to having that big sugar craving because you go, oh my God, my energy is so low, you probably won't need that hit. And so many people are dependent on that, right? They have the caffeine and they have their sugar fix about 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it's just the food. And I know, Chelsea, you're really into all of this good gut stuff, right? So, it's not just the sugars. There's a whole heap of other stuff that sits behind that as well.
But what's really frustrating, and I bet you both agree with me, is every client that's coming in, we are teaching this basic information too about the lymphatic system, about sugars, about the what gluten does and spike proteins, and all this basic insulin stuff, lymphatic stuff. The people on the table go, oh my God, this all makes sense. I now understand what's happening in my body. Thank you so much. And then they go, why don't we know this? This is basic. This is, if somebody would have explained it to me when I was at school, if somebody would have told me, or my parents or somebody, this I can really understand just by you painting that picture and putting it into real life words, that this is how my body's working, and they get it. And you see that flicker, that moment where they go, oh my God, I understand. And what Oz just said about, I like to know what I'm putting in my body. Wow. I am responsible for what goes into my body from what I am aware of, right? So I can read a label and look at it and go, holy smackers, like there is lots of words on there that don't come off a farm. There's lots of words there that aren't tree based, that I don't understand, that must have been changed chemically. So those foods that are changed chemically that go into our body, our enzymes don't know how to break it up, don't know what to do with it, because it's this foreign chemical made up thing that goes into our body, and our enzymes go, holy heck, well, how do I know? Well, I don't know how to break that up. It's not like human. I don't know what to do with it. So it puts it into different places throughout your body to try, it for later. And then your body is so burdened, then your liver, all your detoxification pathways, everything just gets burdened in that fat. It has to sit in fat, like away from all of the critical parts of your body. And, I like to know what I put into my body. Like that is the line, I think, that we have to really push now. And it's not just our food, it's all of this Wi-Fi shit that they're calling diabetes type 3, that now all this stuff that we don't know how is that's affecting affecting us. We've spoken about all the different chemicals. I love the girls from Additive Free Lifestyle, like they break it down a lot about how much food is poisoned. And one example I'm just going to give quickly is when you go to the supermarket and you will see all the vegetables and all the fruit out on display looking shiny and pretty. You've got a section for the fruit that isn't as pretty, that might have a dot on it or a little lump, or a carrot might be crooked, and it's often, you get that a little bit cheaper because it's not looking, its appearance doesn't stack up. And then you've got all the organic food off to the side, and the organic food is all covered in plastic. So the reason for the organic food to be covered in plastic at the supermarket is because every night they will spray for vermin. You can imagine the cockroaches and the rats and mice and everything that would run rampant through every supermarket. So they have to spray for all of poisons, for all of that stuff in your supermarket. And then they have to make all of the fruit look luscious and pretty. So then they spray it with a nice, I don't know, plastic.
It's actually E904. I can tell you that's what it is. So E904 is what they use on jelly beans. And they also use it's coatings on it, so it gives everything that sheen. And it's actually got shellac in it, which is the same stuff in nail polish. So I can be found in furniture polish, nail varnishes. I've actually got it written here, but it's normally they don't have to label it if it's from like fresh produce, but it's E904. Yeah, it's pretty bad if you look it up.
All sprayed, all over everywhere. It's all sprayed. So that's why the organic food has to have plastic on it to protect it from all the chemicals that every night is sprayed on the food. So the tip is, if you are not buying organic, because I know organic food can be expensive, if you are not buying organic, please soak your fruit and veg in the apple cider vinegar mix. So what I mean by that is grab a bottle of apple cider vinegar with the mother in it and an organic bottle. Just use a cap full, fill up your sink with some water, just normal water, add the apple cider vinegar, let your fruit and veg soak for 20 minutes, half an hour or so, and then wash it off with water. And you probably see that fruit and veg will last longer as well in your fridge.
Actually, that's a great tip. I saw something to use bicarb soda with it as well, to help sort of remove anything, especially with strawberries, which are highly sprayed. The bicarb soda and apple cider vinegar together, and then it will just help neutralize the taste. The bicarb sort of neutralizes the apple cider face. Yeah, sorry, Oz, what were you about to say?
No, it's just now that you say strawberries, one thing that one of my theories, and this is just a theory, I could be completely wrong on this, but long time ago, when I started seeing strawberries with lumps, big lumps and small lumps, to me, I start thinking that strawberry looks like it has cancer.
Yeah, probably genetically modified.
I avoid any fruit or vegetable that I see with lumps. I avoid it because to me it's like if humans can get cancer, why not fruit? So
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting concept.
yeah,
And
so it's a
people,
good idea
yeah,
to test that lump if there's something strange compared to the rest of the fruit. I don't know.
yeah. And it's like antibiotics in meat. It's like people don't realize. So you've got like lumps on food, on fresh produce, and then you've got other things inside of meat. And people eat a lot of meat in this country. And a lot of the time they use them to protect the animals against illness, just like, you know, they spray food to protect them against pests and things that, you know, stop them from growing, which then maybe are deforming the fruit and veg. But then you look at, actually, I've got some statistics here. Normally you won't see antibiotics listed on ingredients lists, and they did ban them in the EU and the US, but there are lots of antibiotics and antimicrobial resistance now in animals. So there's actually a statistic here. Data gathered in 2018 revealed that nearly 3/4 of the worldwide supply of antibiotics is used on animals rather than people, which raises further concerns about the possible effects of antibiotic resistance. So, you know, trying to do, I'm very conscious of my meat consumption normally. Like, I want it to be grass-fed and finished, which, because sometimes I do grass-fed, grain-finished, but grass-fed, grass-finished, organic. Try and buy stuff that's local. So it is more expensive, but a lot of the time I'm aware, or if you know somebody, you know, and you can go to a butcher and you can go in with some friends and buy your meat in bulk from a good supplier. Sometimes that's a more effective thing, but meat especially is huge. It's a huge problem for a lot of people because people do eat a lot of meat.
I love
processed meats. Yeah, well, that's it. And you know, meat is a great option if you are vegan or vegetarian. Another thing to bear in mind is that a lot of the time, like, fish products actually are hidden in other foods, so you might think that it's vegan, or you might even have a fish allergy, for example. But things like Worcestershire sauce, like, it has anchovies in it. But people don't know that. And if you've got allergies to things, they use, I think it's called, what's it, carrageenan? Is it carrageenan? I see it a lot.
It's too big for me.
Okay, well, they add it in dairy products as a thickener a lot of the time. So it's like seaweed in dairy-free milks. So you know, for people that have issues with sea things, it can be challenging. I mean, people just don't know. You just got to really be educated. And as you said, Chelsea, like, this is the kind of stuff most people don't actually know about. People talk about low fat, low carb, keto, paleo diets, and they don't understand basic information. So one of the big things I find with people is serving sizes are really, really challenging. I was on a tour, as I mentioned before, for 3 days with the band, and I took my own snacks, and I have really healthy snacks. So I have like things of like popped cauliflower or popped broccoli. There's only 3 ingredients. It's like olive oil, Himalayan salt, and the broccoli or the cauliflower. But then you get this packet. So big thing is it's not resealable. So you assume that it's just a single serve, you're going to eat it in one, but it's actually 2 serves in a packet. So, and they're very moreish, and people get really, you know, like a packet of Tim Tams. I mean, who the hell eats one Tim Tam?
So that's where the serving size is important. So on the label,
Yeah.
they only have to put in a poison if it's going to be over a certain level per serve. So exactly. So a serve of a packet of chips is like a handful of chips. And they don't have, if you eat, so they don't have to put on the label if they can get the serving size down, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's all about the recommended daily intake levels of particular things. So, you know, they look at carbs, fats, proteins, any other types of chemicals in there. And so if it goes over a toxic level, they have to reduce the serving size down. So you might have a packet of chips and you just look at it and go, oh yeah, that'll feed 2 people. And it's actually like 12 serves because the serving size is so little. And they do actually display it on the back. And the thing is, it's in such fine print that a lot of people skip over it. The biggest thing to realize when you're looking at nutritional value tables is you'll always have the number of serves per packet, the serving size, which people most of the time are like, I don't know how big 12 grams is. And then you'll have your 2 columns. So one is like your breakdown of your nutritional values per serve and then per 100 grams. So if you're trying to compare different foods, this is with prepackaged foods, obviously, always compare the per 100 grams with other ones, because then you know you're dealing literally apples with apples, very shiny apples at Woolworths, with E9040 all over them. But you know, that's how you can make an informed decision. So it's about comparing the protein, the carbs, the fats, the sugars, any other ingredients. Always look at ingredients lists as well, guys. Like, the more ingredients in a product, the further from nature it is. I mean, I have this conversation all the time. Tell me where in nature you will find a perfectly formed, dehydrated brick of wheat.
Mm-hmm.
And Wheat Bix have 5-star health rating, fortified with vitamins and minerals, right? And
Do you know,
something like that.
where cereals actually came from?
Tell us.
Do you know the story of cereal?
No.
Oz?
Do you, Oz?
No.
Okay, so the story of cereal goes back to Amish sort of land where they had the Kellogg's family. And Mr. Kellogg's was quite religious. And so they would get up, and people would get up and go to work. But what happened is back in the day, the women would have to get up earlier to make men food because they had to heat up the meat and that type of thing. And Kellogg's wasn't very happy with it because he's also owned a church, or he was a pastor or something, because the men would stay, we're over 18, the men would stay in bed and they would masturbate while they were laying in bed while the wives were getting their breakfast ready. And he couldn't handle this. So it was his mission then to make some sort of food that didn't have to be cooked, that was quick, that could just be added some milk to, and then the men would eat and they wouldn't masturbate. So that's why we have cereal, is to stop men. That's how it was all made, to stop men masturbating. But then the Kellogg's, the Kellogg's, his brother, they ended up having this Kellogg's cereal all company. And that's when his brother, they had a fight, and their church was called the Sanitarium. And that's where that's why we've got the brand Sanitarium and the brand Kellogg's. And yeah, that's why we can, thank them. And
thank the Lord. That's what a ridiculous story.
It's the truth.
You know too much.
Pleasure.
Sorry, Oz.
They took away the pleasure of that to get these sort of things inside of the body. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now you just have to whack off you just got to whack off at lunch now.
You just any time we can talk about
any other time.
Yeah.
Well, kids, I reckon that's a good way to end on a high.
So, sorry. The conclusion of that story is that anytime I feel like I should eat cereal.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially Kellogg's cornflakes.
So
just like a chocolate milkshake, only crunchy.
I just wanted to add a little plug for the hair testing, if it's okay. So that's why in clinic we do over 500 hair tests a year, because we take the guesswork out of foods. Strawberries come up 80% of the time not to have. So we test over 500, I think it's 600 different foods and household items. We take a little bit of your hair, and we will give you a yes and a no list, and strawberries come up all of the time not to have on everyone's no list. Chicken comes up a lot as well, onions too, but just because, and broccoli comes up as well. So just because it's a good food, your body might not be able to handle it as well. And people say, well, broccoli's good, what's wrong? And I say to them back, well, if you've got an allergy to or a sensitivity to grass, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the grass. There's something going on in your body that can't handle different types of foods as well. So yeah, please contact me if you'd like to find out straight up what foods you can and can't eat through a simple test. You get your results within a week. So we've got that technology to be able to give you a diet of yes foods, of what to cut out and what you can have when it comes to sensitivities, because the hyperactivity in children, the endocrine disruption, the digestive problems, the inflammation, it's all coming from food, and we don't know what we don't know. But please, start asking questions. Everybody, come back to what is sensible. And going on a diet these days means eating healthy food. Like, seriously,
That's all it means. Yep,
You know,
literally.
going on a diet means people stop eating all the aisle food, going up and they stop eating the processed food and they eat normal food is
around the edges,
diet.
and they shop around the edges of the supermarket. And I love that you brought that up about food as we conclude, because you know, Oz does tests as well for omegas, which I think is something we actually didn't talk about today. But I think we could have another conversation entirely about that, because you know, omegas, which are fatty acids, which your body actually needs. Some are essential, you know, and you need to get them. You need them from food, right? And a lot of people aren't eating enough, or they have the wrong ratios of 6s to 3s. And there's other omegas as well, which you can get from plants, which is super fascinating for your brain. But it's basic stuff, guys, right? Like, it's, you know, if you're struggling to know what to eat, you know, it's probably worth having a chat to us. I mean, I help keep people accountable to their food. That's one of my roles, is that I teach them the basic education about how to read food labels, teach them about the macronutrients, which is really basic stuff, and then hold them to accountable. So if you are working with Oz, you are working with Chelsea, and you need that level of accountability, because you're just like, I just need to know if I'm on the right track. I've got to go out, I've got stuff on, you know, that might be something that would help you. But Oz, I mean, you've got your tests as well, because are you doing a special at the moment?
Sorry?
Are you doing a special at the moment
For the
test that you do?
no, for that one, no. I have for other things,
Not that one. Oh, that's the other
that one
test.
is just part of the treatment. When someone needs if someone comes with bloating, pain, like any digestive symptoms, then we have the breathing test that help us to know levels of toxicity in the body, which foods are causing more toxicity, so we can even test amounts of food. For example, like my wife that is doing the test at the moment, it came out that one banana causes a lot of toxicity, but half of the banana is okay. So she can have half of a banana, and that makes the diet more specific for what she needs. So it's a good test, like give us a lot of information. The only thing is that, yes, you have to be breathing on a thing, like
often. So using that device, which I think is cool.
It's quite good. Like it's helping to measure exactly what kind of things you can eat and you cannot eat. So we start with a very general thing of, like, for example, for fruit, we use fructose. So we do a fructose test. If it comes positive, then we can go fruit by fruit, like which fruits you like. Apples. Okay, let's have one apple and do the test. If it doesn't come out, maybe check 2 apples, or change to a green apple now. And then apples are not causing you any problem, then we go to strawberries. Like, we can go like, and then we also have lactose, we have inulin, we have I think inositol. So that the main things that as a general thing. But once, if it comes positive, we can go on a specific product
amount. Yeah, right. That's pretty cool. And that's using tech, right? Using the little, that's using the handheld device that you have.
It's
the breath analyzer.
It's a small one that is also a breathing device. It's
which is super cool. Well, guys, I reckon that's been a very interesting conversation. And once again, if you have watched us, viewers, please hashtag replay so we know. Any questions, we'd love to hear them. If you've got any topics you'd like us to cover specifically, please reach out to any of us on our socials. You'll be able to find us anywhere. Find Oz at V Vitality, Chelsea at Chelsea Gene Lymphatics, me, Loz at Loz Life. It's been a pleasure to bring you this every week. We hope you've learned something, and remember, question everything. Ciao for now, guys.
Thank you.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.